is a short virtual reality puzzle game where you visit floating islands to make them come alive again. In theory, it's not much of a puzzle. There's nothing in the programming of the game that stops you from simply walking over the air to get to all the islands. The only barriers are the physical walls of the VR-supported room you're playing in. The puzzle comes from how to use those moving platforms to manipulate what is within the bounds of those physical walls. Most people aren't used to thinking about layered spaces, especially when they move relative to each other. Winning this game requires thinking about space in a way that might be unfamiliar. The idea for the game fell quite naturally out of the research we've been doing on VR movement design. Given only a small room, how do you allow someone to feel like they're traveling through a large space? We've come up with a bunch of different answers to this question, and this is one of them. Emily Eifler created a simple moving platform prototype in Unity a couple months ago as a proof of concept, and then I put that concept into the WebVR framework that Andrea Hawksley built for us, using these 3D modeled platforms created by Elijah Butterfield. The biggest challenge in designing this thing is that it took me a bit to really wrap my head around the consequences of this kind of movement. We prototyped it using physical paper islands and cut out room boundaries. Once we understood that, I was ready to put it into code. I'm not going to go too deep into the process of programming all this, but basically everything is sine waves. The rolling hills are just a pile of sine waves. The rolling clouds are sine waves. The platform movement is sine waves, and the birds flap in sine waves. The butterflies flutter in sine waves. When the bloom flowers bloom, that's because I'm moving each vertex by a pile of sine waves. The first version of the game had the platforms move along their sine wave path just whenever you're standing over them. Turned out this is a bad idea. One moment you'd be looking out at the landscape, and the next moment the world would be sliding sideways because you triggered the platform. And that's exactly the kind of thing that makes people sick in VR. The two problems with the old movement system were a lack of visual context and a lack of control over the movement. In a different game with a different style, we may have decided to put some sort of handrail or cage, some visual constant that would stay with you as you move, but that wasn't going to work for Float, so we decided to try something new. Move only if you're kneeling down or sitting on the platform. During the process of kneeling, people naturally look down, so the platform is in their visual field, providing steady visual context when the movement begins. Plus, kneeling down is a deliberate act. You can't trigger it by accident. We added a bright green glow as another visual cue to make it even clearer that yes, you're moving now, and that's okay. There's also sound cues for when the platform starts and stops, which serve an important purpose beyond just fun and polish. They make it instantly clear to the brain whether or not the world is supposed to be moving around you, even if you're not looking at the platform. The music is also more than just atmosphere. The 4 major island groups each have their own little piano theme. As we travel through the virtual space and bring islands together, you can hear the intersections of these themes. New themes draw you to new islands and give the different spaces their own identities. Also, when you win, all themes play at the same time to give a sense of cohesion and completion. Float is available right now for the Vive headset in WebVR at viheart.github.io/float. It requires about 3 square meters of spatially tracked play space, oriented such that the initial island's opening faces towards a wall. If we were a game company and not a research group, we'd have menu options for the initial layout and crouch height and sound stuff, and this would just be one level of many. Also, we would probably be selling it instead of giving it away and open sourcing it, but this is a research experiment, so if you want to mess with that stuff, just fork it on GitHub. It's on github.com/viheart/float. If you do have a Vive and want to try it out, probably tweet me at viheartbyheart or find us at ellavr.com. Bye.